Academic Development. We would like to welcome you all for this very interesting, kindly workshop, flipped classroom tips for implementation of distance learning. And since we are carrying on with distance learning, these are the things we think we should have more of them, and I'm sure they will be valuable and useful. Our speaker might be, if not all of you, might be 95% of you, they know him. They have encountered him in other workshops, Dr. Maan Kousa from Electrical Engineering Department. And as usual, always his workshops are very interesting. That's why I'm not going to take any more time. And the floor is all yours, Aba Osama.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sabahkum al-khair. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Said, for this nice introduction. So 95% have already seen the hustle. The 5% now are waiting to see it. Those who assume to be attending for the first time. Okay, so let me start right away to share my screen to this topic of a flipped classroom. Now, I hope my screen is clearly visible to everybody.
Yes, it is, yes.
Okay, so as Dr. Said mentioned, this is about distance learning, trying to see how flipped classroom applies to distance learning. Now, I have a big challenge. I put a big challenge for myself today, that it's not an awareness workshop, is not anything. I really look for a good number of you that at the end of the workshop said, yes, this is the thing we're going to do next week. So let me see if I can succeed with this challenge, that you will find in this workshop something that you will go and implement for next Sunday. I have few requests, if you don't mind. The first one is, well, I was going to request this, but I had some feedback that it may slow down things, but we agreed that let's have it, and if things get worse, we can switch off. So please, at least from time to time, if you can keep your camera on. If it was a section of my students, I will definitely ask them all to keep the camera on all the time during the class. My second request, kindly, if you can, okay, I think it's a bit late now, but if you use your PC and laptop, because you see, this allows you to see everybody and a lot of audience at the same time. While on on your smartphone you can see only 4 at a time or so. So it gives you a feeling when you see a lot of photos, even if not videos. But it's fine. But actually, the reason I'm putting this request is for two folds. One is if we can get some of it now, but two is this is what I'll do with my students. Okay, I will ask them to have their camera on, and I will ask them to join the PC, because the PC have a bigger space, and you have everything more available compared to their smartphones. Now, during the session, I will ask questions. Okay. Now, for those questions, please be prepared. Sometimes I will request you to share your answer with everybody. As you know, okay, sharing answers by chat. Sometimes I would say, please reply to everybody, because this is what I want it to be a discussion, and I want everybody to be aware of what others are saying or sharing. But other times when I ask the question, I will ask you to provide your answer to my private chat only. And if you do this, please, I'm getting to the session with two names, one full name, Maan Kousa, and one only Maan. Please write to Maan. Please write to Maan, which is only my first name. So when I ask a question that is, I need private answers. Okay, these are actually the questions for assessment, for individual assessment as we go through the session. Again, I'm trying to mimic what I will do in class. So sometimes I would like to have a discussion, so they should use their everybody response. Sometimes I would like to get this individual student answers. So if they will ask them to reply to my private chat. Now you may say, well, do you have time to look at the chat? Not necessarily, but at least at the end of the session, I can save the file and then analyze it after the class if I'm not able to do it in class. But at least I have all the responses of the guys. But also at the other times, I will invite somebody to speak by name to talk. So I hope you don't mind. I would say, Dr. Abdullah Sultan, please, can you reply to this? Okay, so when I ask questions, please be prepared either to reply to everybody, to me only, or I may call you by name to have some private discussion or fair discussion. Now, if you want, this is from my side, but if you want to ask or talk to me, don't use chat because I don't look at chat all the time. Though I collect responses, but I don't look at them all the time. I'm focused on my lecture. So please, if you want to talk to me, you either raise your hand or just, okay, with audience like you can just, you know, okay, let's try raising your hand in the chat. I'm afraid the number is large. If you ask just to unmute and talk, maybe some miss. So let's please raise your hand if you want to talk to me. Okay, so you grant me those requests as much as you can. Reply to everybody. Okay. I'm getting only 3. Okay, good. Okay, a lot of yeses. Okay, that's enough. If you don't write yes now, you don't need to write yes. Okay, now, let me start with this. If you don't mind, I'm going to put this link on the chat. It's a 6 minutes video that I want you kindly to go and watch now. Okay, so let's put it on chat. Okay.
Sorry, doctor, how to raise hand?
How to raise hand. Okay, let me first put this on. Raise hand, there is an icon. Salman, can you respond to this or? Okay.
You can go to the participant. Hit on participant and you'll see the first raise hand. Just hit on participant. Did you hit? If you hit, then you'll see raise hand. You just click on it and then your hand would be raised to the speaker. Okay.
We can't see the link, Dr. Maan.
Okay, the link is now there. So please, I'll pause for 6 minutes. I can receive your talks if you like, but please, the link is, oh, sorry, I put it, no, I put it to somebody only.
Yeah, it has not changed.
Okay, I have to change it to everybody. Okay, you are right. Okay, now you have it.
Yes.
Yes.
Please, it's 6 minutes exactly. So go and watch it and come back to me. And get ready for some questions and discussion on the clip after you're done. Yes, Dr. Gadib.
Yes, it's not clicking. The link is not clicking.
Copy, then please copy it and paste it on your
Yes, thank you.
Explorer, or yes.
Taking time to load. It's not loading with me. I don't know why.
Actually, the server is on ICTC premises, and I think it does not have the bandwidth to serve all 80 people at the same time.
Yes, Dr. Maan, the quality is really extremely slow. The video is extremely slow.
Can you download it and share it with us, Dr. Maan?
Yes, that's right. This is the best.
I'm not sure, Salman, can you do this? Or
one option is that we can upload it on YouTube. That will be.
So, for example, when you
السلام عليكم دكتور، ممكن تعرضه انت من جهازك، خلينا احنا نتفرج عليه
I'm not sure that can Zoom. Can I do this, Salman, here on Zoom?
Share your screen. If you
Yes,
can
you can do that.
Yeah.
Just enable the share sound in the.
Okay. Okay, let me see. Share.
Share your screen.
Share screen. Okay. And let's go to here.
Play the video first and then share it. Yeah.
But do you hear anything?
No.
When you share the screen, you have.
The sound cannot be shared.
You need to share the sound of your computer.
Okay.
It's okay now.
Yes, it is okay. Yes. The sound is not loud in your mind.
Still have problem in hearing them, please.
Yes.
Actually, there is, at least in Teams, there is a way to share the sound of the computer, not to raise the sound. It's a different way. So it should be there in Zoom.
Okay. So I will change the plan.
Okay. Let's go to our presentation. And okay, let's share it again. Okay, so at least this is something I learned, that our server has limitations. I don't know a server that cannot allow access of 80 people. I don't know how can we how can we use it. I don't know. 80 people is not a crowd.
If you can put it on the YouTube, and there's a way through Zoom.
Yeah, okay, of course there are ways, but I didn't expect that our UPM server cannot withstand 80 participants.
Also, through
so,
Zoom, you can use a specific portion of your screen.
Okay, so please can we just come back here so you can stop your link? Okay, anyhow, that was that was actually 6 minutes recording of a lecture, of one of my lectures about communications, where I explained to them various issues about communication. I put it on a link for students to watch before they come to class. And now when they come to class, I was trying to play this with you, but unfortunately it didn't work. But you can, imagine what's going on. So when we first come to class, I will start asking them few questions. Question one, these first questions are actually exact a review of things in the clip. What are the 3 types of channels? I already mentioned that in the clip. what is the signal type for each one, how do you define a transducer, and so on. These 4 questions are direct review questions of things they had in the clip. And the other questions are, some extended questions. Okay, for example, I explained what is a transducer in the clip, but now I want to make sure that they understand what's a transducer, so I'm checking their understanding with other questions. Do you consider a power transformer a transducer or not? Do you consider sound amplifier a transducer or not? And in the clip, I mentioned only one type of transducer, and I want to see if they can, from things around, they can think of other types of transducers. And in the clip, I discuss it only for one channel, so I'm trying here to see if they can think about what transducer is suitable for other types of channels. So basically what you see on this chart, 2 sets of questions, review questions directly from the clip, and questions that extends beyond what is in the clip to test their understanding. Obviously, from the questions you can see, the orange questions, a transducer is a basic concept. This is why all my questions here are focused on transducer. So that was the thing that is crucial or important or in core in that 6-minute speech. Okay, so you see, how did I cover this subject? I covered it this way. Okay, I covered it this way. I made a recording, put it to students to watch before they come to class. In the class, I started with some review questions and then advanced questions. Now, how else I could have covered this material? Well, I could have covered it in the classical way. That is, I lecture them these 6 minutes rather than being on a clip, on a link for them to watch. I will explain it when they are with me or in Zoom. Okay, it'll probably then take more than 6 minutes, because when you talk to people, eventually you will start to repeat yourself, you may get some questions, whatever. So it will take more than 6 minutes. But anyhow, I'm going to lecture them, and those questions that I want to ask them, of course, I wouldn't have time to ask them in class because the class now is used for lecturing. So I would put them in form of homeworks, for example. So these will be a set of questions that I give them to work on their own as a homework, either the review questions or the extended questions. So do you see the difference, first of all? Yes, right? Everybody sees the difference between the 2 approaches?
Yes.
Yes. Now, this first approach I have started with, let them watch it before they come to class. Class is used for discussion and questions. It's what we call a flipped classroom. And it's called the flipped classroom because in the classical way, if you think of this box as the classroom, in the classroom we lecture, and then we give assignments outside the class for them to do. So we test their understanding outside the class in a form of homework or other assignments. In the flipped format, this is the class now. I use the class, I lecture before class by giving them the link, and I use class for activities, not only assignments now, because now actually I can, do more than what you can do in a homework, okay? So this second format, this lower format, is the flipped classroom. You use the class for the activities, for the assessments, for the, for other issues, and you do lecturing before class. So you flipped the role of a classroom. Now, let me tell you, I have been promoting this technique for a while, but I have a big difficulty always, or actually, let me say, the main difficulty was, I was trying to promote it where lecturing physically is still feasible. So people still see that there is a very strong component in the classical format, which is physical lecturing. And because we are losing this, they are hesitant to accept the flipped classroom. I think now, with the will of Allah, we are in a situation where we are in a better position to consider flipped classroom, because now it's not an option to have the physical lecturing. So now, even if you do lecturing in the classical format, you are doing it online. So now it's actually a comparison of lecturing online synchronized where everybody is there, or lecturing where people can watch the lecture on their own. That's the only difference now. Physical is not an option anymore. And in fact, that gives more credit and preference to considering flipped classroom, because as I said, the strongest element in a classical classroom is not there anymore. Okay, I have two hands. Go ahead, please. I don't see the names, but one of you can go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, Doctor. كيف حالك? So
Salam.
I
Go
just
ahead,
want to ask,
Amir.
I just want to ask if how can you make sure that all the students
Yes,
that you
I'll
send
come
the
to
link to?
all your questions. Don't worry. Give me just
Okay.
few minutes, because definitely you are here because it's not a piece of cake.
Okay.
Definitely you are here because there is something to discuss. But,
okay, thank you.
Okay, but let's
I
get
will
the
wait.
difference. Thank you. Second question of the same type or different type? Okay, seems same type. Okay. Let me please give me just a few minutes and then I'll take your questions. So I just want you now to see the difference between the two. And as I said now, because everything is online anyhow, flipped classroom is really worth to consider. Now, I know there are a hell of obstacles and challenges and worries in moving to flipped classroom, and Amir was just about to mention one of them. I know them very well. And I will listen to you also if you have more. We know everything has a challenge and we have worries about it. And I promise you that most of the class, most of the lecture today or workshop will go towards looking at those obstacles and challenges. But please, if for few minutes, can keep this idea aside that it has obstacles and just try to think with me of the wins. Forget about obstacles, because I promise you we'll discuss them in details. But understanding now that the difference between the two, what are the wins you see in moving to the flipped classroom format? And now I'll take some answers on the chat, on the everybody chat. What are the wins you see in the flipped classroom format? On chat, on everybody chat, on the public chat. More time for interactivity. Yes, covering more content. Students will be more serious. Engagement, more time. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, plenty of nice answers. Okay, 10 more seconds, please. And then, okay. Good. Let's stop writing now. And please just, take a minute and read your colleagues' answers. Okay? About saving time for more interactivity, covering more content, engagement, involving students, motivation, lifelong learning, collaboration, and others, deeper thinking. Great. And anybody disagree with any of what is mentioned in the chat? Anybody disagrees that this is not a win for a flipped classroom? Okay, great. So that saves my job actually. So it's a win. And let me summarize your answers in what a students will win and what faculty will win, which I don't see much in it actually. I see that you've really focused on students, and this is lovely from you guys. I know you care about students. So basically you are considering the student aspect, student perspective. I like it. But we also are there in the picture, and we have a lot of wins for ourselves as faculty. But for students, yes, it's true. But there are other things you have not mentioned, which I learned from students, actually. I didn't know them. Students like this format very much, even when there were physical presence, for 3 reasons. that you have not mentioned in your chat. One is they told me, now we watch it at the time we like to learn. It's not necessarily your class time. Your class time is too early, too late, too inconvenient. I learn at 11 p.m. So now he can learn at his preferred time. He can learn at his preferred pace. Sir, you are too fast for me, and I'm shy to ask questions. Or you're too slow for me. You keep repeating things. The guys keep slowing you down, and you answer them, and it's too slow for me. But now I learn at my pace. I have it there. If it is too slow, in fact, I can speed it up, go with 1.5 or 2 even at the speed. So I really don't have to listen to all the 6 minutes. It can be only 4 minutes. Or if I am not confident with something, I can repeat it 2 or 3 times. So I can learn at my pace. And I can repeat the whole thing if it's not clear to me. And one more thing they like it for. They said, this is the best thing you provide us for exams. You really made our exam, preparation for exam, very easy. We now need to, what else you need other than the professor repeating the lectures again for you before the exam. And in fact, I keep watching, I'll tell you now what I do when they watch. I keep watching their views, and I can see that when it comes close to the exam, the number of views peaks. Everybody goes back to those tips and listen to them. So as you see, these are the wins we get for students in addition, to what you mentioned about, the time and comprehension and. But there are also wins to faculty. So let me give you 1 more minute. Just think about ourselves, guys. Let's not deprive ourselves also. What do you think we are getting? Are we winning anything from the flipped classroom? We, the faculty, forget about students now. Please use the public chat also. Enhance confidence that you covered. Excellent, 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 Dr. Salam. Excellent, Nabil. Excellent. Yes, yes, yes. Excellent, Husni. Yes, yes, Abdullah. I like your point. I like your point. Material is prepared. You get this off your head. Now you focus on things you need to focus. Yes. Yes, yes, Bora, yes, individual attention. You give individual, now you can give individual attention because you have time now. Yes, so let me summarize what I had, and I think you had some more. I'll go to them after the end of the class and use them to enrich my workshop. This is something nice, I like it here. That you can save your chat, and then after the class, you can analyze the answers. There is one hand raised by Sayyid. Fadal Sayyid. I don't know if you have the right to raise hand, but go ahead.
Well, I myself, I don't know, but since you give me the permission, I'll go ahead. Those 4 extra wins with the student, to me, it looks like this assume that the flipped classroom that it's recorded. I don't know, might be flipped classroom, I can assign a student what they need to read, but this is assumption here is things are recorded, isn't it?
Let me, really I'm summarizing here my experience. I think that if we're talking about an alternative of a class, then in my opinion, it should be recorded by the faculty himself. Anything else, students will not consider as an alternative. You said, do the reading and let's come to class to discuss it. They will feel that this is much inferior than a class. If you give them a clip of somebody else in another university, they think this is not the material of KFUPM. And we are not sure if everything is in the exam. Students would only feel that this is a substitute for a class when it is recorded by you or some of the other instructors who are coordinating the course because they know this is part of the course. So I would recommend that if you want to use flipped classrooms and you want to succeed, do it this way, not through other ways, because students may not find it fair. Okay. So, yes, what are winning as a faculty, as many of you mentioned, I now can select on what to cover in depth. The problem, folks, here is that we have a lot of material to gather, and because of the time constraints, we more or less give equal weight, equal time to everything because you want to cover everything. But why we know that the material type is not for this equal treatment time. You know, you have to really give more time to some concepts and less time to other concepts. But because of, you know, the need to cover everything, you really don't have this. Now you do the recording. Maybe 50% of you have said in the recording, you don't need even to mention it anymore. It's very obvious from what is there. There is no further anything more to discuss. So really now you can focus. Like for example, in the clip that I failed to show you, I really wanted to focus on producers. And that only took, you know, 2 minutes in the clip. But now I spent half of the class to focus on this concept because I think this is important. This is what I should cover. 2 is extra activities, you know, not only homeworks, you can do, you know, debates, discussions, you can discuss advanced topics based on this and so on. Individual attention, because you have time now, I can, you know, actually take feedback from individuals. Actually, this is what I was planning to do after you watch the 6 minutes, if it was successful, that those questions I was preparing for you, I was going to ask you to send me answers privately. So the 8 questions I had at the beginning, these were not open for discussion. These are, I just wanted to address them to individuals. And at the end of the class, I will take this file with the individual responses. And from that, I would know who watched the clip, who was attendant, who was doing the effort, who was really trying to be with us in the class, and those who are absent. So I would really take this file as, you know, what do you call it, minutes of the class. You know, that would be the best minutes of the class, what took place in the class, and I will analyze it for assessment. And assessment. Let me pause here because I think this is important. I think one is a big challenges we are having now with online guys is not lecturing, is not delivering the material, it's the assessment. Because, you know, you cannot run exams fairly on online regardless of all the technologies that are there. They will help, but they are not perfect. We're really having a problem with assessment. This technique, if you continue doing it, at the end of each class, as I just mentioned, you have the minutes of the class, the recordings of everything that took place in the class, including student participation. And as I said, when you direct questions to students and say, reply to me privately, so everybody has to reply, or at least after the class, you know those who did not reply. For example, in the class, if I ask them 3 or 4 questions, I can go after the class and see, okay, this guy attempted 2, this guy attempted 4, this guy attempted none, and so on. Not necessarily right or wrong, because you are still in the teaching phase, but at least I can assess their interaction, their engagement, their seriousness. So this technique provides me an assessment, a way for assessment, okay? That is, please, can you mute your mics, please? I can hear some voices. Okay, so this technique provides me an assessment in every class that is almost impossible to get in physical classrooms unless you do a quiz, for example, because physical classroom, you usually get public answers. And even if you get private answers, it's not recorded. You know, you don't remember that this guy participated, this guy. You have a general impression at the end, but even you cannot use this for assessment because you have no proof. But now, for example, if I came to students and say, your performance in class is poor, and look, I have the chats for the last 10 classes. Let me show you how much you participated, okay? So I have something I can build on. So I would say there is a lot of wins to students, a lot of wins to faculty, and as Dr. Abdullah mentioned, you prepare the material once and use it now every time you teach. For example, even in this term, if you have 2 sections, you don't have to repeat the lecture twice. Now, if you are assigned this course again next term, your recordings are there. So you really put the effort one, and as some of you mentioned, then I can really have a model lecture. I can put my best in that lecture, and so on. Actually, I did my best in that 6 minutes, but Allah Samah, ICTC didn't work. Okay. So as you see, there are a lot of wins for faculty, for students, and finally, the class itself becomes much more vibrant compared to a classical class. Okay, I'll pause here and take some voice feedback. Anybody has a feedback, comment, criticism, anything? Please don't Don't discuss obstacles yet. Huh? Obstacles will come now. But anything you want to discuss about wins. Okay. 2 hands. Let me see. How can I see the hands raised? How can I see the hand raised? I don't see it. Why? Let me see hands. How can I see the hand raised, guys?
Go
okay.
to participant.
Participants. Okay.
Enlarge it.
Sorry?
Enlarge participants.
Participant, then scroll down.
Okay, I can see. Thank you. Dr. Abdullah. Yes, Abdullah, تفضل. Abdullah Sultan.
Simple question. How we can generate a quality video with the presentation on the side? I really don't know how to generate something of that quality. Thank you.
You see, you started talking about the obstacles, challenges, and worries. I will discuss them. I promise you I'll discuss them. Nabil.
Yes, I wanted to make sure you have a 6-minute video. Okay, is that for every 50-minute lecture you squeeze it into 6 minutes, or you have many 6-minute videos?
Got your question. I'll respond to it. Any more hands? Any more hands? Yes, I have. Please, if you finished, lower your hand. Let me see. The problem is there a way to list the hands? Because I have to go through scroll over all.
No, it should come to the top.
Yeah, but the top I can see only one by one, you know. For example, I have Muhammad Hussein. Yes, go ahead, Muhammad Hussein. You have your hand raised. Muhammad, or Mahmoud, sorry, Mahmoud Hussein. Mahmoud, can you unmute yourself if you want to speak?
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Mahmoud. Go ahead.
Okay. This flipped classroom is good for learning, actually, but the question is how to motivate this student to do their background reading, because this is a challenge for the faculty to make sure that they have read the material before they come to the class, because I understand this class time is going to be used for discussions based on more application oriented and more interactive sessions, rather than just reiterating the same thing that we have said before.
Dr. Mahmoud.
Yes.
What did I say before we started the wins? I said we have a lot of obstacles and worries. Please keep them aside now. I'll come back to them. Can you please, guys, resist? Can you, not Mahmoud, all of us, can we resist thinking about obstacles and worries for a while and think about the wins? Yes, Husni.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
My question is the model of teaching or learning. When we are using this, are we putting in our mind, are we going towards e-learning or e-teaching? I mean, I noticed this, that we are trying to continue in our university as teaching, but taking these circumstances and continue in the way which we are teaching. So is the model you are using, is it still, I mean, teaching, or you are using the model actually in e-learning? Thank you.
Thank you, Husni. Good question. Actually, I didn't claim that this workshop is about moving into active e-learning, though I assume I can defend this, but actually, let me just put it simple. I'm just trying to provide something practical or more practical than going next week and basically keep lecturing the way we were doing in the physical classroom. Now, whether is this moving into learning or still in teaching, is this, this is another discussion. Think of what I'm presenting now as a technique I think that's very easy to move to, because I'm going to discuss the obstacles right now. And I believe it's much, much more useful from the wins we have seen than just going tomorrow and keep lecturing and give them homeworks to do at home. Muhammad Ghazi.
Yes, do you hear me, Doctor?
Yes, Muhammad, go ahead.
Yes, you mentioned the video, recording a video for a flipped classroom. What other methods do you think also works well other than video?
Personally, I have just
sending
yeah.
notes, class material, slides.
Yeah.
What are the other methods you think it will work well with students?
Thank you. As I just mentioned, answer Dr. Sayed, I don't think anything would work as good as making recordings. If you want to go for this technique, guys, you have to do recordings. I don't think giving notes is fair substitute of lecturing. You have to give a lecture. This is my personal experience and belief, but it's not, I know, I have been in the situation where I thought that recording is not straightforward. It's a worry for me. It's not. I'm going to show you in a minute now. It's really much easier than what you think. Azdeen, last comment, please. I'll take Azdeen and Edward, and then I'll move. Yes, Azdeen. And please, if you're done, lower your hand, please. Yes, Azdeen. Unmute yourself, Azdeen.
Dr. Maan, Assalamu alaikum.
I can hear you. Go ahead. Excellent.
Okay. I'm just, proposing a solution. Probably it would help Dr. Mahmoud Hussein resolve this concern, which is like, for example, to get the students more engaged, is that to give them a quiz at the beginning before they start the class, and then you go finish the lecture and give them a second quiz and see, if the students have, grasped the idea or not. And let them.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm just, throwing this idea. I don't know if it will going to be.
Thank you, Azdeen. Thank you for the help. But guys, please, can you resist thinking about obstacles? Yeah. Please. We'll have 1 full hour for obstacles. Okay. I need your comments now on debating, discussing, negating, denying, approving, ensuring wins. Okay. Yes, I'll take only Edward, as I mentioned, and then I'll have to go forward. Sorry for the other guys, I can't take them in the next round. Yes, Edward.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, alaikum salam.
Based on your experience, when we record the video, should we allow for discussion with students? Because I have, say, 3 or 4 different sections. So is that a good idea to allow for discussions?
Okay. But I don't get your question. I mean, the video, when you do the recording.
Because sometimes, yes, I can tell students, please hold all questions until after my lecture.
Okay. Actually, the recording I meant to do, which I'll explain in a minute now, is a recording with no students. It's a recording because it has to be done in, I mean, it doesn't have to, but it's better to be done in a way so that it will be concise, to the point. So it's better to be on your own and you really basically deliver information. You don't, repeat things. You don't answer questions, because as you said, it will interrupt the recording, and you don't want everybody to listen to the question of someone who may not be relevant to others. So the recording I'm talking about, which I'm going to elaborate in a minute now, is you're on your own. Okay. Similar to the one I wanted you to watch. Actually, the one I wanted you to watch wasn't done in front of students. I was doing it on my own. Okay, I would request Dr. Qadiba and Dr. Vora, please, to wait for me for the next round, so that we don't get really out of control of the time. Okay, so now I'll go to your obstacles as I promised. And to save time, I'm not going to ask you for the obstacles. I know them. But if you have more, let's add. These are the challenges, obstacles, worries, happens to be the cows of the technique. Yes, there are plenty of them. I don't know how we'll accept it with all those cows. Let me tell you what I have in mind. And if you have more, we can add to the list. One is recording. I'm not familiar with recording, quality of recording. How should I do it? How long? And how then to share it? As you see now, even myself, I consider to myself that I've used the technique for a while. I run into this technical problem of sharing that I thought I didn't expect this server issue. So this is one concern. Recording and preparing the material. That's one concern. I'm sure many of us have this concern. Maybe not the younger generation. If you have anybody here in their 30s, I don't think this is really a challenge for them. Actually, there are natives of technology. We are immigrants of technology. Most of those guys in the late 40s and 50s are immigrants. You know, we didn't. At our times, I don't know. My time, I was still using cards as an input to the PC, to the mainframe. Sorry. So, but that's one big issue. Another big issue is, will students listen to the recorded lecture before class? Will they come prepared? I mean, okay, you put it and they don't watch it. What do you do with the questions in the class? Nobody's going to answer. Then it's useless. What is the point? 3. Okay, some will do, some will not. What you'll do with those who are not prepared? Okay. Isn't extra load to students? You know, you're asking them to watch before they come to class is not much. Are you asking students much now, you know, by asking them to go through the class before the class and then come to the class again? Yes, big worry. And finally, what are you going to do during the class? You know, you're going to repeat the lecture again for those who did not attend, or you want just repeat it just to make sure everything is clear, or what? Yes, these are 5 big questions that we need to answer and be satisfied with the answers. Otherwise, I understand why we may be reluctant to try the technique. Am I missing anything, guys? Am I missing anything?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Please, interaction with the students right on the spot from the student's point of view is missing.
Okay. Okay. Maybe, okay, I will try to address this, inshallah, in 5, which is what to do during the class. Because you see, basically, there is still a 50-minute class where interaction has to take place. Yes, maybe not at the time of listening, but at other times. So we'll discuss this in 5. Anything else you think is missing, guys?
Yes, I guess.
Go ahead.
There is one point. Sometimes the class quality of students does change. You know, so the same video may not work.
What do you do in class in this case?
This is what I'm saying. This is
no. What you do in class? You see, the point is, I want to compare this. Not to dreams. I want to compare it. Let me just continue my point. I don't want to compare it to dreams. I want to compare it to another technique. The other technique we have is to lecture in the class. So what else you will do when you have this type of thing?
I guess right now, because you're discussing the obstacles and challenges, this is one challenge. Typically what you would do in real classes, definitely you will lecture a different way. In this case, you have to probably get some feedbacks, and once you know, then you start to change your teaching philosophy a little bit.
Excellent. And this is why 5 is there. Excellent. I like your point. This is why 5 is, in fact, 5 is much better for flipped classrooms than to classical classroom, because now in 5 you can have all the feedback. You can see if the lecture was absorbed properly, if there is something not clear, okay, and then you can address those things that are not clear. We'll come to this in 5. Do you feel anything major is missing, guys?
This is Ammar. May I add something here? So I have 2 quick points. The first one, sometimes in the class, when we explain a complicated or like a complex idea that depends on each other, let's say you need 3 ingredients in order to be able to understand, and they each depend, like each one depends on the previous concept. And if the students will miss concept 1, it means they would never understand point 2 and point 3. Now in the class, you could easily, let's say, assess it, you could see the faces of the students, but if you record those and the students did not get it, that means they absolutely will not get any of those, and you might need maybe to repeat in there. When you meet with them, you discover some of the students absolutely did not get anything because they missed concept 1. While in live lecture, you could interact with the students, see how it goes, so that your lecture, you could just make sure they understand concept 1 before moving to concept 2. That's my first point. Second point, if you are teaching a big class, like let's say 80 students, like auditorium or something like that. Now, even with the flipped class, you may not have really time to check with individual students, while if you are lecturing live, you could see those who are maybe sleeping and focus on them a bit or see how it goes. But if the class is too big, I think it might be challenging to make sure individually that the students has actually watched the video. Those are my 2 points, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Your good name, I didn't catch your name.
Ammar Al-Husseini.
Yes, Ammar. Very excellent points. Excellent points. I just want to say something. There are challenges that applies to all techniques. These are challenges inherent in learning. So I would argue with you that you can tell me that if I'm in the class, I can tell from the faces and I can repeat. I don't know how much you really can use this as a technique, that you can tell from the faces. Or if you have a big class, you can still do some individual assessment. So I accept your points, but I think these points are also available in any other technique. It's not inherent or a result of watching the lecture alone on his own, because especially now he has more time and you have more time to discuss things that is not clear, to find what is not clear from the questions you present at the beginning, and you have more time to focus on them because now you don't have to repeat everything. So I accept your challenges, but I think some of them are common to all techniques, is not particular to a technique. Okay, let's go and discuss the 5. If nothing is burning with any one of you, I can. Let's start with answering those 5, and hopefully, the discussions in each one of them would lead to some other minor issues you may have in mind. Okay, recording and sharing. I would say it has never been easier to record and share than those days. Actually, it's straightforward. More straightforward than you may think of. In fact, I have another clip, but I'm not going to put it for you now, but it's only 1 minute. But this is on Google. This is on Google Drive. I think I may not have the problem. It's not a KFUPM. So let me put you this link, and it's only 1 minute. Please watch it. Okay, it's copy and chat to everybody. Okay, it's only 1 minute, guys. Watch it and come back to me, please.
The access is not there for all of us. We need access.
Sorry?
It is telling us that we need access.
Okay. So forget it. Good, I'm learning something.
You need to add technology as a barrier. Technology and technology use.
Yeah, but luckily it's only, things that are repeated. It's not that comes every day. Yes.
If you can share it without having to have an access, it will be open for anyone with the link.
Yeah, I should have changed the settings.
Yes.
Yeah,
you can.
Okay, so what I have here actually, okay, let me show you what I have here. Okay, let's stop the screen. This is shared as we did with the first one. Okay, stop sharing. And now share again the screen. Share screen. Share screen. Okay. Okay, and let's do this. Okay. You don't have to hear. If you don't hear the sound, no problem. But this basically, what you see here is the type of recording Dr. Abdullah was mentioning. I have my slides, and I have a small clip on the right here. And in fact, I am explaining. Sound is very clear. I just don't want to steal time here. And I'm explaining what is pronounced taxonomy. Okay. Now, this type of recording is straightforward, and you don't need more than this. Basically, all what you need to do is on Zoom or MS Teams. These are or anyone else, but at least I know these two. You go and you start your session on your own, one participant only. You start sharing the screen. You put your clip, you move it to the area you find is convenient. In this case, I like that upper top right hand. You have your presentation in the shared screen, and you start lecturing.
Dr. Maan,
yes.
Just quick comment. Because if not, I mean, most of the IEEE conferences now are moving to online, the IEEE itself has prepared a very short video. They have it on their website for consistency, for the sake of consistency, for all authors to prepare their video presentations on Zoom. So it's public, it's a very, very nice video, which shows exactly the different steps you go to, which you just mentioned now. So it's an IEEE kind of agreed upon technique for recording videos for IEEE conferences.
Thank you, Muhammad. Thank you for this information. So as you see, guys, it's really straightforward. Start a session, share your screen, start recording, of course, start recording. And if it is in Zoom, once you are done, it will say, wait until I prepare the video for you. It will prepare it and ask you to save it. You go and save it on your hard disk. If it's an MS Teams, it will automatically also store it in the server there, and you can go and take it from the server. So both ways are straightforward. There is you don't need really anything more than this.
Yes, Dr. Maan, yes, please. We have used this for the oral exam, like the math prep here. We have used this for the oral exam, which is about 10-15 minutes at time. And I've did it myself. It's really good, and it's there, and you can access it anytime. Just to let you know, through Zoom.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And MS Teams is as friendly as Zoom. The nice thing with Zoom is you can store it directly on your machine. With MS Teams, you know, it's stored in the server of the university, but you can, of course, download it. Okay, let's continue.
I just shared the link. Man, I just shared
thank
the
you,
link
thank you
for
very
everyone.
much. Thank you, Muhammad. Thank you. Okay, so, but let me continue this slide, and then I'll take if you still have concerns about recording. So it's straightforward, guys. You don't need anything. Previously, I needed to contact Dr. Sayed and Dr. Waji, and they said, can I use your studio? And please, if somebody, Salman, can come with me, and he started the camera, and he told me stand here and don't do this. And now I don't need to do this. And the quality I'm having is enough. It's not an international presentation in the United Nations. It's basically a class for my students. It will do the purpose perfectly. 2, now make it in parts. Answering Dr. Nabil, make it in parts for many reasons. I would say that these parts should not exceed 10 minutes. Okay, keep it in clips or parts so that students are encouraged to watch it, because when it is in pieces, it's more encouraging, more motivating than a one full 30-minute lecture. 2 is it's easier to download, move, and so on, you know, the size becomes reasonable. Now, if you say, okay, how many parts I would need for the class? Well, from my experience, you don't need more than 30 minutes to cover a 50-minute class. Wow, where is the other 20 minutes? Well, I'll tell you what the other 20 minutes. In a class of 50 minutes, we don't lecture for 50 minutes. Okay, we usually step in, take attendance, step in, can you please mute your mics, please? We step in, we take attendance. If somebody comes late, we say why you are late. During the class something happens, somebody asks questions. So we don't lecture 50 minutes in a 50-minute class. There are always few minutes, that are overhead. No interruptions in this case. You are doing the recording, so no student are going to ask you and say, I did not get this. Can you repeat, please? Now, this is more important because I did this wrongly at the beginning. Then I learned from students' feedback. When we lecture, an audience, naturally, we repeat important stuff. When we lecture audience, naturally, we repeat important stuff. You see, now I have repeated my statement again because I think this is important. When you do a recording, you try to get this habit off. Don't repeat anything. no matter how important it is, because if it is important, because students, if he did not get it, he can go back and listen to it. So don't repeat anything so that you keep your presentation as concise as possible. Okay, I don't mind that you repeat once if there is really something you really wanted to repeat, but don't get the habit of repeating, because in the class, if you notice, if you just record a typical class, you would find yourself that a lot of repetitions, which is needed, okay, because there's an audience, you have a feedback from them, eye contacts, whatever, and then you may tend to repeat. In a recording, you don't have to do it. Say it once. If they need, they will go and repeat it. And don't do many examples here, because remember, there is a class, we're going to meet with the students, and there we're going to solve some examples, and we're going to apply some of the things we learned. So some of the things that we usually do in a class, we're not going to do it now in the recording, we'll still keep it in class. If you keep these points in mind, you don't need more than 3 clips of 10 minutes each, okay? So if you can really sort of partition your class into this, more or less, okay, it doesn't have to be exactly 10 minutes, okay, then that would be really something preferable, okay? Now, though I do recommend that you do your own recordings, but there is no harm if there is a particular concept that is well explained in a YouTube, because there are some animations, it has a video, movie, whatever, there is no problem that you borrow some other clips into your material and you make it as part of the material. That's okay from time to time, okay? But mainly the course should be your own recording for students to feel comfortable that this is our lecture, this is our instructor, our course. Okay, so that's about recording. Let me see what you have. I have many hands raised here, maybe 6 hands, 5 hands.
Dr. Maan, it's time to give them a 10-minute break if you want somebody to grab a cup of tea or do something.
Well, I thought when we are online, when we are online, everybody can take a break when he wants.
No. I don't know. People are so...
Okay, so let's finish this. Let's finish your discussion on this, and then we'll take the break. Okay, guys. Ali Al-Ghadib, Dr. Ali, anything on recording and sharing, or that was an old hand raised?
No, it's about the previous one that you postponed regarding the wins, actually. And regarding the wins, it just this method of flipped classroom, it encouraged faculty to move from the comfort zone of traditional teaching into a new creative things, and it will set a model to the student that they can also themselves move to away from the comfort zone. So it's a really win to both faculty and student, that it would motivate people to go and to explore. That is really a big win.
Great, Dr. Ali, excellent. Dr. Bora?
No, I just had one input on that recorded lectures. Like sometimes a concept may need to be explained differently because the student or students group cannot understand it. So you need a tailor-made explanation at times. It means your recorded lecture may not work all the time.
Yeah.
You mean for the same material, same course, you need to...
Same concept, but need to be explained differently because maybe only one student or a group of students cannot really get the concept the same way.
Dr. Far, let me get your point. If you go now to a lecture, forget about online.
Right.
If you go to a lecture, what are you going to do?
Definitely, I will explain it different way.
Okay, this different way, record it, please.
Yeah, but what my point is, the same recording may not work all the time.
Oh, you mean next class, next semester?
I mean, even the same class, maybe you're recording a lecture and now you find that the group of students cannot understand you. So maybe
I don't get your point. Do you mean that you go to class, prepare to explain in a way, and then you find that it's not working, and in the class you made up your mind to change your way?
No, let's say you record a lecture, right? You put it there. Okay, but you have a group of students, maybe in the same semester. It takes time sometimes, to get a feel of your audience.
Yeah, but my point is I want to compare. I don't want to compare this to a dream. I want to compare it to another situation. The other situation is to step into your class prepared to lecture. I'm saying the same way you are willing to lecture in a physical class, do the recording. What is the difference here?
True. I mean, there's this, but what? No, I'm putting this as a challenge.
But it's not it's a challenge for learning, not for this technique. Because anyhow, even if I go to class, I must have my notes and something in mind. How am I going to explain? It's not, yeah.
Definitely online is good, and the way the points they're putting are very nice. Let me just start it the other way, with the positive way. Like one of the other positive things about this online lecture, like this recorded lectures, that when you put it there, even if 35% students, they do go over it, it means they have some idea about the lecture. So when they come back in like online contact with the whole group, so, and when they raise questions, many of things get cleared very easily, okay, because students now know it and they put questions. So this is a much better way. Like it's like a fission process, you know, like or domino effect. Like you hit one ball and it hits two balls and then it keeps going. So it's really a better way. You know, it's very effective, very efficient. But on the other side, if the audience, you know, either a small group, even if you have a small group of students who cannot understand a concept the traditional way, and you have to adopt another technique, another way, maybe you have to slow down or something, you know, that's one of the challenges with this recorded lecture.
And maybe with this, you can figure this out and then you find your way how you're going to treat it. You're right.
True.
Okay, I will take, yes, I will take one more and then we have the break. One, Dr. Frimpong.
Okay, thanks very much, Dr. Maan. I think it's flipped classroom is very useful, but I have one point about your point that recording is essentially the only effective method. The reason why I said I think we need to also make room for alternative flipped class activity, particularly when you are looking for higher order cognitive learning skills, action, doing things. I mean, watching video is almost very passive. So what I'm saying is that if we agree that the best learning comes from doing, then we should be able to assign flip activities which require students to take a more active interest in the learning process. So for example, reading, which helps to develop cognitive skills and evaluative skills, should be encouraged. Doing a task, which also helps to develop skills, giving them assignment to work on, because if we stick to the video, then we're actually encouraging passive learning. And that is my view, that we need to also consider the fact that
I agree with you 100% in the principle, but let me tell you my philosophy. Don't make two changes at the same time because the chances of failure will be high. Do it one by one. Now, I would like people to just move from insisting that we have to lecture synchronized online to the concept I can watch it before and come and discuss it. If I put another objective at the same time, that, okay, at the same time, I want you to read, not to listen, then I'm having two objectives together. If it fails, I don't know why it fails. Did it fail because of this or that? I am of the opinion, of the philosophy that make one change at a time if you wanted to succeed. I'm not against what you're saying, but not at the same time, because students say, okay, read and not a class, I'm not going to do it. And even faculty may not do it. So I agree with you, but let's this be the next step. Let's get used to, now students are used to watch the video on their own, not necessarily I am there. Now, later in the semester, maybe later in I'm going to assign also some additional reading in addition to that. Okay, guys, we're going to stop now for 5 minutes only, please. 5 minutes, it's enough to make tea and coffee for 5 minutes. All heaters heat up very quickly. And we'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, we'll be back by 10:45, please.
Thank you, Saeed.
Okay. Maan, I don't see you taking tea or coffee or شيء فبالتالي أنا okay. طيب.
يا سيد يا سيد يا سيد, you should know Maan by now.
Well, I have to apply to the electric engineering department if they will accept me after 70 years of age. That would be fine.
يا سيد.
نعم.
You should have supplied tea virtually for us.
Yeah, we are trying to do that. We are. أقول لك يا معن, one of the things that I read about flipped classrooms is enhancing a lifelong learning. And one of the difficulties, even the student now had a report on the student في states, one of the real problem with the student is reading and writing. يعني they found this is real problem. So might be in the flipped classroom we can do blending. And we can, some of the lectures we recorded, some of them we tell them to go and read it, okay, and so on and so forth. But anyway, later on, if you have time, you can just comment on that. Jazakallah khair.
When I ask people for a few things, I agree with you, but when I ask people for a few things, يعني they find it too many. Let's get one thing done at a time. And then, so let's start this. And then eventually, I am sure every one of us would, once he يعني, feels comfortable with the technique, then he would find his ways to improve, يعني add reading, add this, add that. But, first of all, there is some barrier that stops us from just jumping into it. So let's jump into it. And then once you are there, I'm sure everybody would have his own ideas.
I agree 100%.
If now we say, okay, guys, do recording, try to do some reading, do enhanced writing, it's okay, this is too much technique. Stick to what I'm doing.
Okay, as the British say, slow but sure, okay.
We are British. I mean, we learned there. Same school, yeah, Sayyid, huh?
Now.
I didn't know you were British. But make sure you are British subject. You should be British subject.
The French came, Nabil came, the French came.
That's muted, Nabil.
يا معنا احنا جماعة شمال افريقيا when you say French that's a big insult يعني. يلا خير ان شاء الله.
Dr. Maan, I want to add something. Probably, I have taken like flip classes back in US, and they do the attendance based on we give you a quiz at the class. So the first 5 minutes in the class, someone gonna bring his phone or laptop or something like that, and you do the attendance as a pre-quiz for based on the video that you have seen at home or something like that. So I think it's one of the good techniques. So you kind of forcing the student to watch the video before entering the class, and make it like two things, like a quiz and attendance to the class. Yeah.
Yes, we'll mention this when we come to point 5, what to do in class. But this is a good point. Okay, I think it's 10:45. So let me start. Sharing the screen again. Okay. So, okay. I know there are some hands, but can we, let me see, hands. Okay, Mr. Frimpong, I think we had your answers. So I have Mahmoud. Go ahead, Mahmoud. If Mahmoud is here,
I think those have spoken before.
Okay, yeah, okay. So please, if I have 3 still hands, Amir, you have anything, Amir?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, Amir.
Well, I just want to mention something about the previous or the number one from the fives. The last comment was if students require a different way of explaining. So I just want to share my experience with this. I'm a fresh PhD graduate, so I just came from the US. And one of the important things that I did there was trying to self-learn using YouTube. Because lots of the comments, lots of the lectures that I was giving weren't as informative as I would them to be, or as I would like them to be. And I consider myself
There's a lot of noise from your side or somebody else. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. So I consider myself maybe one of the younger generation a little bit. So I try to search YouTube for lots of the comments that I want to learn. And when I went there to the YouTube platform, I saw lots of different ways of explaining the same concept. So that was no problem for me. So my suggestion or my input on recording a Zoom recording and sharing it with students is actually to put it on YouTube. And having the correct way of tagging the video, you will end up with lots of results on the same topic from different people, from different universities, from different experts. So if the student doesn't see your way or doesn't understand the way that you're doing things, they will actually learn from somebody else. So this is my input on.
Yes, and I think this is a good point for us. Even if we can share our recordings, if we feel it's really useful and important, and we feel we have done something special, I think if we put it on YouTube for others outside KFUPM, this is a credit for you, a credit for KFUPM. You know, for people in other universities, find your lecture is a way to get their points. So I think this once the recording is there, you can decide whether you really would like to make it more open than your students only. Okay, now finally, sharing. You share once you've done the recording. Now you have two options. You either share the video itself or the link on Blackboard, and Blackboard allows you for both. Blackboard, once you go to course content, you add a module, you have an option to add a video or an option to add a link. So if it's already on a server, because of the size or whatever, for example, it's MS Teams, you want to bring it to your hard disk, you can just take the link. But if you'd like to download the whole video, you can also do this. Now, let me talk to you about sharing. Is really sharing with students is really very straightforward. If you go to Blackboard, for example, I used to share links, not videos, but you can do the videos. Give it a name, copy the link you would like them to share, and then you make sure that in the settings in Blackboard, you add this track numbers of views, okay? Because this will allow you to see the activities on this recording. And this is very important for the second challenge we are coming to, which is will student watch or not? Okay, so make sure you make the settings right, that you track numbers of views.
That man, please, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm saying once you have the recording ready, you go to Blackboard, to content module, and add either a video, if you'd like to add the video itself, or a link. You have both options in Blackboard under modules, adding content, course content. So for example, if you choose to add a link, give it a name, a label, copy the link. If it's a video, then just share the video directly. And then in the settings of that, every material you put, there is a settings. The settings here important is track number of views. I would like to track number of views of this material. So click it on so that you can generate reports on the views. Okay. Now, so I'm going to use this as we go, but this is important. So don't forget about this, about sharing. Okay. Now, second challenge, I think this is the biggest challenge. Will students listen to clips before class? Well, let me first say something, please. Not all. But what is our benchmark? Do you think when you lecture physically in the class, all students listen? Do you think when we lecture online, wherever in the class, all students who join the session are listening and attending? Let's not compare it to a dream, you know, let's not compare it to an ideal situation. There is no environment where we are 100% sure that all students listen all the time. Not even in a class. You know, we always complain that students are sitting, but their mind are not here. This is even worse when we do online lecturing. So whatever we do and propose will not guarantee 100%, but I think 100% is a dream, is not an actual value. You know, we have to benchmark to compare with other possible techniques, not with the impossible. Not impossible, but almost impossible with students. And remember, we said something that is in favor of flipped classroom, that in addition, they listen at their preferred time and then their appropriate pace. So that's a motivation already for them that they will listen to. But in addition to this, I have the following recommendations to encourage students to do it. One is make it in short clips. That's very motivating to students. Rather than watching the 30 minutes, you know, it's only 10 minutes. So I can watch this 10 minutes now and 10 minutes later and 10 minutes later. Two, make it available enough time before class. I mean, I would say at least right after the previous class. For example, if you're teaching on Sundays and Tuesdays, so right after your class on Sunday, the latest, it should be already there so that at least you have 2 days, you know, to go over that. Three, keep assessing them individually. Keep assessing them individually during class. So as the Dr. Amr just mentioned, you know, sorry, Ibrahim, you know, ask them questions in class on this material. I'm going to come to this in a minute, you know, so they know that in the beginning of the class, there will be some questions and not for the public. For those questions, you say, okay, guys, I have a few questions for review. Reply to private chat. So nobody is hiding behind others. You ask the question, reply to private chat. And okay, 2 or 3 questions so that they know this is your style. The class is going to start with questions. They have no time to cheat, by the way. You know, if you're asking 2 or 3 questions, they don't know what are these questions to start with. Everybody is thinking about himself. It's not the time to give answers to others. And even if this happens, it will happen at a very low percentage. But this is also not the issue. The issue is for them to know that you're going to ask questions at the beginning of the class. So they must watch it. So this is important that you start the class with few questions from the clip so that they know they have to watch. Now use Blackboard to monitor recording and send feedback. I found this very, very useful. I'm going to tell you now how. Blackboard, once you activate the track views, you can go and see who, not only how many, who have watched or at least accessed the link yet. And what I do usually, I go a few hours before the class or at the night before the class, quickly and generate a report. It takes half a minute. And I look for those who watched already and send them a thank you that everybody can hear on announcement. Thank you, Ahmed, Ali, and Amir, for watching the video already a few times. I encourage others to do it. Now, others would know that I'm watching. I know those who have already viewed, okay? So I found this really very motivating or, okay, threatening if you like, but at least it pushes them to do it. They know I'm watching, okay? So, let me tell you about this rebirth issue. It's very straightforward. If you go to the content, for example, here, I added a communication part 1 as a video. Then I'm going to click on the right button and go for view statistical reports. This is all in Blackboard, straightforward. View reports. It will take me to this page. In this page, I would click on the right button and say run. So it will run the report. And then it will tell me what format I wanted. I want it in PDF, and I specify the dates for which I want to generate this report, from which date to which date. And it will show me all the student names. If you want to, usually I keep them all. I want to see all the activities. Or with only 3 clicks, as you see, 1 click here, 1 click here, 1 click here, your report is ready, and something like this comes to you. Now this shows how many accesses every day But also important for every student. For example, Muhammad here has watched, accessed at least twice. This guy, look at this guy, he accessed it 6 times. This guy 1 time, and others not yet. And you have this for every single student in the class.
So you're saying this is the access to the video itself, not to Blackboard.
No. This is the video itself.
Okay, thanks.
Now, let me be honest. Access doesn't mean he watched it all, but at least they know you are watching. And now I'm going to send a thank you letter to Muhammad al-Mut'ib and to Muhammad and to Ara'id. Guys, thank you. You've already accessed it. Thank you, Muhammad. I can see you have accessed it many times. Others, please do it before class. Okay. So this watch, I think, is very, very positive. Okay. So, any comments about this concern? The concern about will student watch it? So we already give few hints or suggestions. Okay, make it short, but give them enough time, assist them at the beginning of the class, and generate reports. By the way, you have to do it only in the first few classes. Once you get your habit and they see that in the class they are not prepared, they will lose, they cannot answer. You don't have to do it later. And it's not for every class. Okay, let me take now questions. I have 2 hands raised. I'll go by raised hands, please. Mahmoud Hussein. Yes, Mahmoud. Mahmoud Hussein. Okay, Amir.
Hey, Doctor. I just want to ask, can students actually download the video from Blackboard?
Of course.
To their devices?
Yes. Okay, if it's there, they can download it, yes. Okay, please, if you raise your hand, because I'm already open on the raised hand sheet only. So I cannot read the chats. Okay, no more hands, great. Okay, so we have addressed 2 of the cows, the recording, and ways of making sure students would listen. Yes, Muhammad, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just thinking whether there are other ways, for instance, say they have some sort of questions or a small write-up or something as an activity they would do before they come to class.
You can think of this, Muhammad, but you be careful, you know, everything had a load. It's already a load for them to watch.
I mean, for instance, Dr. Mani, I mean, this question of what are the 3 main things you learned from or the 3 main comments you have about the video you watched?
Why you don't make it in the beginning of the class and ask them to send it to us?
Yeah, that's another way. That's another way to do it.
So that they don't feel really they have to do a lot before class. If you feel it's, they will hate the course. So do it in the class. Do it in the first few minutes of the class.
No, thanks.
Okay. Yes, Nabil.
Yes, Dr. Maan, in a large lecture format, when you have close to 80 to 90 students, it's difficult to do it with a chat and monitor that the answer of everybody. So what would be the alternative in that case? Because if you have a small classroom, you can ask a question and ask them to answer it in the chat and monitor who answers and who does not. But when you have a very large number of students, there must be a different way of doing this. Either, as Muhammad said, something either a pop, short reading, I guess, homework or pre-class homework, or something that we do in the beginning of the class that automatically we can store the responses.
Okay, let me tell you my way. Really, even if some number is small, is 20 or 30, I think tracing the chat would distract you from focusing on the lecture. So my way is, I don't look at the chats during the class. Chats that are responses to my questions, okay? That are private chats. I don't look at them in the class. I save the file because in Zoom, you can save the file at the end of the session. There's an option to save the file for the chat. In MS Teams, it's already stored in that session. Whenever you go to it, you see all the comments. So I do this only after the class. After the class, I look at the file, and if it's already, I want to give some grades for the answers, I will do it. If I just want to give feedback for somebody that he never responded in this class, I would send him a private message. I did not see any of your answers. So to answer your question, the way I find it comfortable for me, I do the analysis of the feedback after the class as if I'm looking at the homework now, because there are no homeworks to grade. As if now I'm grading homeworks, and I don't do it in class because it distracts me. And as you said, if the number is large, it's not feasible.
Okay, thank you.
Mujib?
Yes, Dr. Maan. I have some, a question about what you are saying regarding not looking at the chat. What if the students have questions that, their follow up with you will be based on the question they can get the point or not? Do you think this will make an obstacle for the student to continue, for the lecture?
Yes. If you remember, Mujib, at the beginning of today's class, I put some rules. And I said, which I'm going to say to students, there are 3 types of feedback. Sometimes I'll ask you to write back on the public chat, and this is if something I would like to have it for discussion within class. Sometimes I would say reply to me privately, because this is something I would like to test you on and assess you on. I'm going to take it after class and look at it. But I said, if you want to talk to me, don't use the chat, because I may not be looking at the chat in the right time. And even you guys now, sometimes I come back to you and say, oh, my question is on the previous point. If that was a lecture, the students will be disturbed, because that was a previous point. So I tell students, if you want to talk to me, don't write on the chat. Raise your hand, or in a class of 20 or 30 students, unmute yourself and talk to me directly. Especially that students, they don't talk much. So there's really no harm of asking them to unmute and talk, even if it's a big class. They don't really do it. So a chat is for me, not for them. If they want to talk to me, not through the chat. They have to raise the hand or unmute and talk. Okay, now let me go to, if you can lower your hands, Nabil and Mujib. Okay, now, third concern, what to do for students who come unprepared? Well, definitely whatever you do, some students will come unprepared, at least for the first time or first few times. What to do? Well, nothing. They will listen in the class and they will learn something. Those are the guys that are probably, even if they are sitting in class, they'll also not pay attention. They are not serious. So don't do anything for them. And I warn you, they will take a lesson from what happened, because when I ask questions at the beginning, review questions, they cannot answer. And please, 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 we do not penalize those who listened for those who did not listen. And you start repeating the class again. This is not fair. Some of them have done the effort, and though they don't want to have a boring meeting where they listen to the lecture again, because few have not listened. Those few, even if there are many, they should be the ones who are penalized. They cannot respond. Let them learn something from what they hear. Maybe they don't get everything because there is some background they don't listen to, but this is their fault, and we should not. I'm willing to sympathize with them, but not at the cost of penalizing those hard workers. Okay?
Maan, can we?
Yes.
Yeah, this is really a major issue, because the students may come back later if you give them questions, say in a quiz or whatever, and they say, I have not read or I have not seen this in class. Is there an issue of legality from the KFUPM side?
What is the class definition of a class?
They will argue that, okay, I have a time slot from 9 to 9:50 in which I am supposed to be exposed to the lecture on such and such.
I think this is their own definition. I don't think anybody says that the responsibility of students is only class time. We sometimes bring questions in the final exam and say this was in the homework. So I don't think this is unacceptable. I think a student is responsible for whatever The faculty defines as part of the course.
Let me just say this. I mean, homework and so on is outside the class. I agree with that. But in terms of lecture time.
That's a lecture. That's a lecture. Who said lecture time? Yeah, Muhammad, I got your point. But why do we take student definition? Who said this is the definition is, I put the effort. I put the extra effort, guys, by making 2 meetings. I did a recording before class, and I met with you with class. I am one who did the double effort also. So I would define for them, and I don't think the university, if the university has anything against this, they should tell us now that flipped classrooms should not work. Because flipped classrooms is against.
I completely agree with you. I mean, there should be some sort of statement or guidelines from the KFUPM side that this is okay.
I think it's okay. It's good to have it, but I think it's, you know, sometimes if you mention what are your rights, you are diminishing those rights. I think it's obvious. I am the faculty, and whatever I say is the student should follow. I will take from Dr. Sayed and then from Dr. Ali. Yes, Dr. Sayed.
Just a comment to Dr. Dresh. Very soon you're going to see guidelines regarding even it contains the responsibility of the student, okay? Guidelines on online teaching and learning.
Thanks, Dr. Sayed. I think we truly need that as clear as it could be for the sake of students. By the end of the day, the course is a contract between the faculty and the student.
Yes, we'll be coming back soon. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, I'll take Dr. Ali, and I would appreciate it if everybody
somebody has already
because, you know, I
excuse me.
already have 20 minutes, so I would like to really finish what I have. Yes, Sayed.
Yes, with regard to this flipped classroom, I think it's not necessarily to go from black to white. We could hold the stick from the middle, and still we can give very few lecture there. I mean, we don't have to go from north to south. Still, we make it incremental to go from transition from the classical lecturing to the flipped classroom. I mean, it doesn't harm. I think the authority is in the hands of the faculty.
Yes, so you can do it, for example, once every 2 weeks to start with. Yes, once every week, you know. Not every class you can make it like this. I agree. That could be gradual change is also possible.
Gradual change. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Now, so really this should not be a big concern for us students who are unprepared. Now let me come to 4. Isn't extra load to students? You have to be fair. We should look also at the student perspective. Yes, it is. It will definitely be an extra load. Is my sound clear, guys?
It was off.
Yes?
We lost it, but it comes back.
Now it's okay.
I can hear you clearly.
Now it's okay.
It is okay. It's fine.
Speaker. But it's okay, right, with you?
Perfect.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, my sound is clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
I'm not able to see. Okay, yes. Okay. Now, so I said, yes, it will be extra load if we keep doing the things we do for classical class. Of course, other things have to change. Homeworks. There should be less homeworks, or I don't mind to say no homeworks. Why do we need homeworks? You want them to practice. Okay, this is why you have a class. You can practice in class. You want to have some kind of assessment. I think what you do in class is better assessment than a homework that you never know how they are solving it. And by the way, I have a note here about homeworks. What I found this techniques allows me is, you know, one of the challenges we have in homeworks, in every subject, there are typical problems that students have to go through. If you know, for this concept, this is the typical problem they have to solve. The problem is, okay, you may put the effort in designing this typical problem or take it from a textbook, but once it is solved for the first batch, the solution is there, solution manual anyhow is there, and you really don't get much out of it.
because the students do it on their own and you don't know that they have copied it from a solution manual or whatever. If you do those typical problems in class, you really get the best out of them because, you know, because you are there when students try them. Okay, you can do them together in class. You can ask them to do it in class and send the answers where they are in class. Okay, so it really it helps in that regard. So, and we have to make it clear to students from the beginning. Look, guys, I know that by asking you to watch before the class, this is an extra work. This is why no homeworks now. Or previously we used to have to give 10 problems of homework. Now I'm going to give you only 3. So we are fair to you. We don't want you to give to you. We don't want to have extra load on you. We try to keep the same, you know, outside class time as previous. Okay, by giving less or no homeworks. Any comments on this issue? Okay. Now, if you ask me what is the big challenge and concern, I would say none of the first 4. It is this one. What to do in the class. If you don't do something that's worth it, you better not do it. If you don't do something more worth than lecturing, you don't do it. Don't flip the class if you are not going to do something more valuable in your class. Student will discover it. If you're going to repeat the same lecture, if you're going to have a loose lectures that will finish in 10-15 minutes because they have no questions to answer, students start to feeling that once you have started, these lectures are no more serious because everything is covered in the recording, then better not to flip it. If you want to flip it, the big challenge is on us in making the classroom now, when we meet with students, much more valuable and rich compared to lecturing. And we should do it, and it's easy to do it because now students are prepared, they have listened to the recording. Okay, so we have to be prepared to make the best of the class. If we are not ready for this, forget it. It will not work. Now I'm going to tell you what to do, but I have already questions from Azmin.
Yes. Ma'am, this is just a suggestion, just to see, for example, not to repeat the lecture another time. You will ask the student who did understand this very well. And then you give the student a chance to explain, to see both things, if he did understood it correctly or not, and at the same time explain it to his peers, you know, by his own explanation rather than ours. So I guess this would be, you know,
yes,
very well.
So this is one thing. This is one thing we can do. There are plenty of things we can do. I'm going to mention some and listen to you from others. But the point here, we have to know that this class has to be different now. It needs preparation, more preparation than a normal lecture. More. I'm serious, and I mean it. Lectures now needs more preparation, more attention, more effort than lecturing.
Yes, you're right.
Okay, what to do? One is spend the first few minutes for review questions. This is straightforward. From the clips they should have heard, listen to, prepare review direct questions. The point here is just to make sure that they take it seriously, and you know you make sure that the basic material that you needed for any advanced material is there. So they spend, but not more than 5 to 7 minutes. It shouldn't be a repetition. And collect those answers on private chat. This is important. Nobody should hide behind this. I want to know who listened carefully and who did not listen. Okay, but that's of course only the beginning. Now, next thing would say, okay guys, was there anything not clear in the clips? And then you receive their questions. Now you may have some, you may have none. So this is why you should be adaptable adaptive in your class. If you have too many of those questions, then this is what you should spend your time on. If you have none, then you must have some other material. Don't say, okay, you have no questions, I have nothing to say, goodbye, guys. This is not good. Okay, so you have to be adaptable. Adaptable, I don't know. Anyhow, one of them. Okay, so then you receive questions on the material. And as Dr. Azadin just mentioned, rightly, when you receive a question, one of the interactive, engaging things is don't rush to answer them. Let's see how others understood it. Okay, take a question of a student and give it to another student who did not ask the question and say, okay, who can answer his question? You all guys listen to the clip. Who answers the question? And create some discussion between students. And this way also you can assist the understanding of others. 4, prepare hot questions. Hot questions means higher order thinking. Okay, not the review questions. Now you prepare something, okay, what are the other examples you can think of the thing I give in class? Okay, what if, in the class, what if we remove that block from the block diagram? How do you think this would affect it? You need to spend time here. Prepare, those order questions, thinking, not remembering. It's about comprehension, about analysis, about criticism, about evaluation, about judgment, and so on. So prepare higher order thinking questions, okay? And be ready to use them in class after you finish answering student questions. Now you should have enough to cover the whole class, but you may not need them all, that's fine, okay? Because if the class is used for something more essential, like responding to student questions, that's fine. So this is why you see your class now will look different from one time to another, because at what time you find your batch has a lot of questions, you have to spend it there. At other times, not. It will differ from a class to class. One class was tough, so you have to spend most of the time here. One class was straightforward, so you have to spend more time here. So you have to be flexible, okay, in what to do, put in your class. Solve problems. Yes, we have not solved enough problems in the class, in the recording, maybe none. Solve problems with them in the class. And my advice to you is put the question on the slide and ask them to try it first and say, okay, guys, you have 3 minutes. You can see the problem on the slide, solve it, and send me the final answer on the private chat again. Or if it's not the final answer, okay, send me a snapshot of your solution on Blackboard, okay, or whatever, but in class time, okay. So solving problems is important, okay. So you pick 1 or 2 typical problems that must be solved for this subject and solve it together. That's much more useful than giving those same problems as a homework to students, because you don't know whether they really learned anything when they do it as a homework. You don't know how they solve it, but when they do it in class, you have a better chance that they were engaged. And as I said, collect all responses on private chat or any media and save it. That's very essential for them to take it seriously and for you to, go back and analyze the answers. Now, if you have time, look at some responses and discuss them, okay? If you have time, depending on the size of your class and so on, you may have time to look at some of their private answers and discover, for example, there's a common mistake, or sometimes, you know that there is a mistake they're going to make in this problem. It's a common mistake, but I just confirm that it is a common mistake, and then I spend time to discuss it. For example, maybe one of those higher order thinking questions, I would like to bring it only after I ask a problem, because I know this problem will bring the issue, and then I can go and discuss the issue. I'm sure you are all expert when it comes to content, so I'm not going to really elaborate on here. The point here, my friends, is that you don't have a pressure of time. You have the material is covered already. Don't worry. So that's done. Now it's time to focus on things that you need to focus on. You will feel relaxed. You are not under pressure. These are all advanced things that is good to elaborate on. But if there is time did not permit, that's fine. The basic material has already been covered. So we are relaxed. The problem with classical lecturing, we are squeezed. We are under pressure of time. We don't have time to think about this. And Let students share their solutions by sharing their screen for some problems. For example, if you give a problem to solve and you give a right, you may ask one of the students, give him a permit to share his screen and say, okay, please let's see your solution. Okay, show us how did you solve it. Okay, he can bring his camera to his notebook and show how he solved it or whatever. So try to make it more engaging. So the point here is we have to prepare for this class very well. This is why I will take the advice of Dr. Ali Al-Qadib. Maybe you do it gradually, because maybe you find, oh, it's a lot of work for me to do something like this for every class. Okay? Do it for the important classes where there are important concepts. Do it once a week. Do it once every 2 weeks. Okay? Or do it every time if you really are willing to put this effort. But don't go unprepared for this class. It will not, it doesn't help. Okay, now I think the first three did not lower their hands. They already talked, Dr. Saeed, Azdin, and Ali. So now new hand I have is Dr. Nizar. Please go ahead. Dr. Nizar, can you unmute yourself, please? Okay.
I'm sorry. Yes. Assalamu alaikum.
Yes.
This is Nizar Abid. Dr. Maan, did you notice, I mean, don't you think actually that you, with this methodology, you have to shrink the knowledge or summarize it in a way and present it in a video or some other ways as well, compared to the traditional way? That's number one. Number two is, I have noticed you did not talk about the assessment and how much reflect does it have on this kind of methodology. In other words, we did not really discuss the assessment thing. We just minimized it. Am I correct or?
Okay, thank you.
You understand my question?
Thank you. Yes. Now for your first comment about, what was it? What was the first one?
Oh, just about, comparing this methodology with the traditional way, you tend as a faculty member.
Yes, I got it. About being concise.
Yes, exactly.
You're right.
Because I think time is a factor.
Yeah, I think yes. Very important point. You see, in our Arabic literature, Islamic literature, we have something called al-matan wal-hawashi. You have the core text and then you have the explanations. Yes, this is exactly what you need to practice to head to. Your recordings should be focused and concise and full of meat. Your class is where you're going to elaborate and and discuss. We want to make the recordings short and to the point and unrepeated and concise, so students don't have much to watch. And we don't also to have a lot of repetition or limit the repetition between the recording and what's going to take place in class. So don't elaborate much in the recording. Recording is like textbook. Try to just say the things once in a concise way. Let's see how students will get it. In the lecture, we're going to see what really needs to be elaboration, what doesn't need elaboration. It's already clear, that's enough for it. So I agree with you, the recording has to be concise, has to be focused, and the class time is where you elaborate.
Because if I cut you here just for a second, because in the traditional way, we usually draw the students to conclude things. Here I see this factor is missing because they have to do an effort. That's how we can get into their critical thinking and how they think and how they can develop, be an independent study, in their study. That's actually is an important factor.
Yes, so this is a very smart difference. Yes, they pointed out. Thank you. Nabil, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question about you previously were proposing for faculty to use team learning, the jigsaw method. Where does it fit in this scheme of flipped learning? Can you introduce or do you practice team problem solving in the class? For example, in physics, we have recitations, 3 lectures per week, and recitation for physics 101 and 102. And in recitations, we do mainly problem solving, and we can do that. But I don't see this in this scheme. The other question is the video. You asked everybody to have his video on or his camera on, and as you can see, most of the cameras are off. So how does it happen with the students? And why do you ask them to have their camera on? I mean, it takes bandwidth, and some of them might be reluctant to have their camera on.
Okay, let me start with the second one because it's easy. Well, I like it to have it on because, you know, I feel more natural. Also, they feel more natural when they see everybody around. I don't think bandwidth is an issue for most of the people now. They already have a fiber connection at home. That is not an issue. If they find it's an issue for the session itself, then they can switch it off. But I haven't experienced this problem from my home, at least, or even from the office. And even students, I didn't see that they have this problem. So, but if of course, technically there is a problem, you don't insist on this. Here, not many are switching on because I cannot force you guys. You are not my students. If you are my students, I would say, unless you have a legitimate reason that you explain to me privately, I need the camera to be on. So if somebody says, sir, it's a shared home, my family is in the same room, I cannot do it. I said, okay, I understand. But if they don't have a genuine reason, just because they are not well dressed or this, I said, no, I want the camera to be on. So I think psychologically, being a camera is on will make the session more serious. If there is no genuine reason why it should be switched off, it should be switched on. Now for the question of jigsaw, a very good question. Actually, I was considering to add a jigsaw slide here, but you know, I thought I would like really to make it straightforward so that, as I said, you know, the step-by-step methodology. But if you want to apply jigsaw, I think it works here. When you talk about asking higher order questions or solving problems. Now, jigsaw means you have to put students in groups. Now, to do it online means some preparation ahead. For example, because you know you want to have an environment for 4 or 5 students only together to discuss something, okay? Now, you can do this with some applications. Now, of course, with Zoom, you need to create a link for every group. Now, switching between the main group and the subgroup may be an issue. MS Teams is easier. MS Teams, you can, from the beginning of the class, course, already put students in subgroups and create teams for them so that you ask them during the class, okay, now you switch please your private rooms in MS Teams and discuss this together and come to me after 3 or 5 minutes. Yes, you still can allow jigsaw. So, for example, you can ask, there's a problem, give them a problem to solve, even a physics problem, for example, and say, okay, now turn to your private rooms. You have 5 minutes and come back to us with your solution. And then when they come back, they said, okay, I want one of you to explain the solution to the others and so on. It will require some preparation. It's not as straightforward as being in the physical environment, but definitely it works. I will take, thank you. I will take Firas' comments. Yes, Firas. And thank you for being here, Firas. Alaikum salam.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, Firas, go ahead.
Yes. Okay, I had two questions I wanted to get your advice on, but just to point on the issue of the jigsaw and the groups. Blackboard Collaborate Ultra has an option to do breakout rooms. It's very convenient and very easy to manage. So while they're in the class, you can break them out into different groups, and each group speaks on its own.
Okay.
So that's so my questions, if you don't mind. You did mention that you do advise that the recording is done by the instructor. Now you know there's a lot of online resources and etc. And as you might have experienced, making a high quality recording, very concise, takes time and experience. And there are some advanced courses like graduate courses or senior courses where the concepts can be advanced. So do you think that it also can be a win if you can expose the students to listening to some of the leading experts in the field through some of the recordings that are already done at high quality, at concise, and after iterations of repeated offerings?
You see, I really, this is of course a very important objective, and if this is your objective, yeah, maybe you can do it. I'm talking about the mainstream of students, undergraduate, that I have been experiencing with. If it's not their instructor, their textbook, their material, they would feel uncomfortable. And they're already uncomfortable. There's already one annoying factor, which is they are listening on their own and discussing it after listening. Yeah. So I would say for undergrads, use your own recordings. Quality is not an issue here. You don't want to have it public for everybody. It's only for your classes. And by the way, the quality is acceptable even if you do it with Zoom. But I agree with you, for graduate courses, yes, I mean, students are mature, really, we already go much beyond the textbook, we go to papers, so for graduate courses, I would say this is very, very acceptable and possible and useful. For undergrad, especially sophomore, freshman, sophomore, and this, I would recommend that they feel this is homemade, this is their instructor, this is psychologically important to them.
Thanks a lot. So my other question.
We have to.
We run out of time.
Yeah, we have to end up in 1 minute time.
So I basically have a summary, and then my last slide is, so guys, it's not difficult. What you need to do is record and share. We already have seen this is straightforward. Now, after that, please monitor the reports and give a feedback. Not every class, but at least the first few classes is important, and then from time to time. Now, this is important, this is important, this is important. You have to prepare for the class, otherwise forget it. You have to have something valuable for the class and back up the responses so that you can look at them for assessment and other reasons. Now, finally, I just show you the feedback of students on flipped classrooms when it was physical compared to physical, not to online. I think in online, it will be even more advantageous to the side of flipped classroom. This survey is a bit old, so it was substituting a physical class, that is, student listen before the class and come to class for discussion. And you can see, I don't want to spend much time here, you can see that almost all students either agree or strongly agree that this was useful, informative, maybe here I have only one or two students who did not like it, for a reason, but the majority. And let me just take the last question here, which is, the overall experience worth the time spent watching the videos? Yes. And of course, you'll always have students who they don't like any change. Okay, so in a nutshell, it's good for students. They learn at their convenience. They review the time for Exeter. Good for us, for many reasons we have mentioned. And it's good for the class, make it more vibrant, more interactive, more amusing. Thank you all for listening. And I give the floor back to Sayed for whatever instructions you'd like to add.
Well, thank you very, very much, Dr. Maan. Thanks to all the participants, and inshallah, you're going to see more of Dr. Maan. And we look forward to see you in other DAD activities. Might be you can communicate directly for those who Dr. Maan did not have time to respond to them, or you can send us your concern or comment and we will pass it to Dr. Maan. Thank you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanallah. Salman, you can just now close the session.